Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Moment. Special guest Stephan Gardner here. Thank you so much for jumping on, Stephan. It's long overdue.
Yeah, it's been about a year since we last spoke, so a lot's changed, but I feel like we're just picking up where we left off, so that's good.
Feels the same. It feels the same. I'm really excited for this interview. I know that all your work is around helping people have breakthroughs in their life. And one of the marks of a genius is turning the complicated into simple. And I'm really excited for you to break down this philosophy that you have. And so everyone at home, grab a notepad and pen. You're definitely going to take some notes today. And as you're preparing that, I'm going to do a quick little intro. And so Stephan is a fair exchange specialist and the founder of Inner Capital, a personal development company that helps high-performing entrepreneurs, creative visionaries, master the psychology of fair exchange. Now, this is across business, relationships, and their inner environment, emotional world. He's also the creator of the integrated appreciation method, a breakthrough framework that dissolves emotional debt. Really curious about this, and helps people reclaim their self-worth without endless revisiting of trauma. Oh, what a breath of fresh air that is. Stephan, let's jump straight into it. I'm so curious, what have been some of your breakthrough moments throughout your career?
There's a few that come up. I think I want to probably just go back to the start of what got me into fair exchange. Because I think that would give some really good context. I had got into personal development in 2006. I think I was like probably 26 years old or something like that. And happened to find an amazing mentor or teacher. And that's where I first learned about the idea of fair exchange. And of course, I went into that personal development school really skeptical. That was who I was. And but I got an amazing amount out of it. And the thing that it helped me with, that I was really struggling with in my life, was anxiety. And mine was social anxiety. I mean, I was just deathly afraid of saying hi to anyone I didn't know, lifetime of, let's say, childhood social trauma and bullying and all that kind of stuff probably has an effect on a person, and it definitely did me. And the courses that I learned and the tools that I learned in that, it changed my mind, because I had no idea. I was 26 years old and I had no idea that you could change the way that you feel by changing your perceptions. And I might have some arguments about whether that's a good idea or not, depending on the person in the school. I think I'm much more respectable of people's emotions and perceptions nowadays. But at the time, it was a huge breakthrough for me. And of course, that led me to meet a bunch of girls. And I was basically the 26-year-old virgin, basically, and that was who I was. And so then when I got into that, I got really attached, and people do that. It's like, it's a mating dance, you meet a girl, it's like, okay, there's a thing, it's an energy, you hold this thing. And the girl who I was dating was a pretty high profile writer in the personal development space, and she was really into me. I was really into her. And but when it came down to it, I definitely made some mistakes in my dating life with her. And I can't really say they're mistakes. They're just where I was at the time in my self-worth. And so when it really came down to the decision, like, one of us is moving either to Australia or Canada, so let's make a choice. And it was going to be me. I was going to move. So I did the whole marriage thing, and she declined that for good reason, in her place in mind, that was the right choice to make. And, but I had such an imagination of what our life was going to be together that it just dismantled my entire understanding of what my purpose was. And I spent 7 years, even though I had all these magical tools of how to dissolve grief and stuff like that, I spent 7 years basically waking up every day like I was living in the wrong universe. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, this can't be real. I can't be living this life. This is insane. And I kept learning personal development. I kept working with personal development speakers as a videographer. That's part of my life as a video producer. And I just got to this moment when like I hit rock bottom basically. You know, it's like you get that moment where you wake up Christmas morning and your head is in the toilet because you got drunk on gin all night with your stepbrother, who you're supposed to be watching for suicide watch because he was, you know, under medication and stuff. And I wake up in the morning with my head in the toilet and the brother's nowhere to be fucking found. You know, it's like, what the fuck? And so, you know, big disappointment, Steve. Here Steve is, this personal development genius with a head in a fucking toilet. And so it's a bit of a thing, you know, and it's like, fuck. And I just had to realize, like, what is going on? Like, how is it that I'm so fucking smart? I have all these fucking tools. I have all this fucking training. I've spent $100,000 in personal development at that point. How the fuck am I in this position? And I just stopped it. I said, fuck it. This cannot be working. Like, if this is the actual result of my life, what I'm doing is not working. I should just fucking stop. And so I did. And that was like January 1st, 2016. I just said, I'm going to quit all this shit. I'm going to shut down my coaching business. I'm going to stop the personal development. And I went on a personal development fast for about, it was expected to be forever, but it lasted about 15 days. I didn't do anything. I didn't read anything, didn't listen to anything, didn't write anything, didn't play any music. I just said, I'm going to sit on my fucking office floor and I'm going to do nothing until fucking God comes into my fucking mind or whatever and tells me exactly what to do, basically. And, you know, minimum viable, whatever it takes to keep myself and, you know, the people I'm responsible for alive. And 15 days into that, I had an insight. And it was like, oh, and I realized, for what it's worth, to give context, that the school of work that I had come from and learned from was more or less, it's better to be grateful than hateful. That was the whole idea. You know, there might be nuances to that. And I'm not saying that that's exactly the way that the presenter was presenting their stuff. But it's how I took it. And so here I was trying to be grateful for everything in my life. And I ended up creating a situation where everybody hated me and I hated myself more than I've ever done in my life. And so I was like, okay, interesting. And then I realized, is that the thing I'm running from? Like, why would I be so wanting gratitude and love? Why would I want that so bad? You know? And so I realized in my own life that maybe I'm running from hate. Like, maybe this is like, cause this is the result of 10 years of personal development work. And here I am. And I realized maybe I've been running from that. And so, I did a deep contemplation on that and I realized that I couldn't avoid it. There's no amount of personal development I could do that would get me to not hate myself or be not hateful or whatever. It was just part of the human experience. And I realized that, well, actually, if you take that word, which no one likes, and break it down into what it really means, it means preference, really. It's a preference. It's like, hey, I've got a value system and I have a preference. This is what I don't like. This is what I like. And for some reason, I don't really know why, but when I had that insight that night, and I just came to appreciate the value of what that meant in my life, because it's like, you know, you wake up one morning, you're responsible for your stepbrother all night and you completely fuck that up. You know, he's not there in the morning. You drank gin with him all night and your head's in the toilet. He's off somewhere, fucking who knows what. It's like, you kind of look at yourself, it's like, what am I going to do? Be grateful for that? That's kind of stupid. Like, you know, like maybe you should, like, maybe hating that experience is part of the game, you know? Maybe it's appropriate to not like that behavior and that result, you know? Maybe that's a good thing. And I took that on. And for some reason that night, I went to bed with an open heart for what felt like the first time in, at least 7 years, but it felt like my whole life. And the next morning, I woke up like really early, like 6 a.m. And I opened my eyes and I was hallucinating. No drugs involved, no drugs necessary. I was just hallucinating. And my ceiling was on fire. I could see visible flames. Like, it was one of the weirdest experiences in my life. And these flames coalesced basically into a framework, and there were words in the flames. And it started to get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And I was like, okay, this is kind of important. Maybe I should fucking write this shit down. So I ran out of bed. I went to my office. I closed the door and I wrote down what I saw. And the preceding 24 hours of that experience were the most remarkable in terms of shifting and changing my emotional state than I had ever experienced in 10 years of personal development. And the thing that I realized, which I had spent 7 years not understanding and had not been shown to me in my entire education, was that like relationships are an exchange. And people get freaked out about that because they're like, oh, you're making relationships transactional. It's like, well, no shit. Like, why are we against that? That's so insane to me to not approximate that idea. Um, and the reason I say that is because the thing that I learned in that moment in my breakthrough was I had spent 7 years loving and appreciating and missing this girl, but really the entire time I was missing the opportunity to appreciate my contribution to her. So I was valuing her contribution to my life, but I had no idea how to value mine. When I looked at this process that I had, I guess, downloaded, some divine fiery download or whatever, um, and I did that process, I found a way to equalize the scales on my side. And that might sound really narcissistic, but I personally think most people have issues with their own narcissism. So it's like, that's a whole nother conversation, I guess. But when I saw the value that I contributed to her and actually just learned to love and appreciate the value that I had to give, this 7-year grief cycle where I woke up every day at 4:30 in the morning in cold sweats and feeling like I wanted to fucking die immediately went away. It like just went. It was like from one moment to another, just gone, and it never came back. And that's when I realized, oh, holy shit. I don't know how to appreciate myself. Turns out no one knows. And turns out everyone is dealing with the symptoms of not getting that right. And that was a huge moment for me. Like literally, it's like you feel this particular way for so long. And then 2-3 hours after doing a process, it's over. It's like shocking, you know? And, that's when I changed. Like as soon as I got that part, I was like, oh, got it. That's valuable. I want to go teach that because that matters and it makes a difference. And it makes a difference because it helped me feel better, at least. Release a ton of fucking baggage and also helped me understand that I was valuable. I still had value. I still had value to give. I wasn't just a fuck up, you know? And that moment changed my life. And it got me to like just recognize that, yeah, maybe this worked out in my favor. I was talking to a friend today and they're like, you know, wouldn't it like, it would have been better not to go through that. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, I think 7 years of that getting me to this realization, which is the foundation of what I do now. I would do it again. You know, it was that worth it. And so, you know, I think we learn from experience mostly. And that was my experience was, yeah, go spend a ton of money on personal development only to realize you have no idea how to fucking value yourself actually. And maybe there's a ton of people out there that might find value in learning how to do that.
Wow. That's a deep, profound, life-changing, and impactful, very impactful breakthrough there. That's wild. I am so curious. Just like, so from that moment, you've then somehow reverse engineered that. Is that then what you help clients with?
You know, that's really funny. I had done at that moment 10 years of personal development coaching. Like I became a coach. As soon as I got into personal development, I said, this is what I want to do with my life. It just became like, it was automatic. Like I just wanted to teach people this stuff that I was learning. But, you know, it's one thing to go to a training and learn an amazing fucking tool that you know could change people's lives. And it's another thing to practice with people that also know the tool. And then it's another thing to take that tool and actually go out into the real marketplace with real people who have no fucking idea what you're talking about and do that for 10 years. And my realization in doing that was that coaching is really fucking hard. It's just really difficult. People are very complex. People have their stories and identities and they're holding on to deep emotions. And a lot of it you have no fucking idea how to deal with until you do. And so it's not like, oh, I've got this one tool and I can do everything. It's like, no, you're going to have to learn a lot more than you think. And over that 10 years, I had about, let's say, 4 clients who I felt I never really served, you know, like they're giving me tons of money, whatever, buying my services, whatever, but, and spending a lot of time with them. And I 10 years in, I was like, I didn't do it. Like I couldn't solve the problem. I throw everything at these people and it just didn't solve the fucking problem. And when I figured this out, and I did exactly what you said. I looked at the questions, I reverse engineered it. I figured out what happened. I went back to those clients and I said, some of them I hadn't talked to in years. And I said, look, guys, I want to express that I don't think I really served you. I threw everything I had at you and we still didn't get anywhere. It's fucking bothering me. And I figured something out that I think might help. And I would love the option and opportunity to fucking try it. Would you be open to one more fucking session with me where we try something totally fucking different? Please say yes. I'm begging you, basically, And they all agreed. And what was amazing about just going and doing that service and like correcting that part of my history, I guess, within about 2 hours each, all 4 of those clients had also the biggest breakthroughs in their fucking lives. And the problems that I had spent 10 years with these people trying to overcome. I mean, I sound like such a shitty fucking coach. It's like 10 years? What the fuck? Well, it's like some people deal with problems for their whole lives, I know one person who's 80 fucking years old and she swears that her life was fucked up when she was in grade 1, It's like, holy fuck, man. Like, whoa. But they had the breakthroughs they needed. And I realized, and they also realized, they were like, I've never felt like this ever in my life. This is amazing. What the fuck did you do? How did you pull this off? This problem I have is no longer there. That's true. And it's in years, I can still talk to these people and they're just like, yeah, the problem is gone. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so when I did that, that's when I realized, okay, I'm onto something. And if I just go down this path with this idea and help people with this, something will just work out. It'll just work out. And I never stopped. And for the last 10 years of my coaching, that's all I've ever done is give people this process. They do it. And suddenly they're like, holy shit, that worked. Wow. That was fun, enjoyable. I felt good about it. It wasn't complicated. It's actually super fucking simple. It's insulting. But, it created what they needed in their lives to break through. And so I just went I went all in on that idea, and I'm never going to stop. I'm going to go to my grave with this. So.
Fascinated. I'm so curious. I'd love to hear another breakthrough moment, but before, can you help us unpack this concept, philosophy, this idea of fair exchange, and where does it come from? Why is it important in these different areas that you mentioned: relationships, business, emotional world?
Where does it come from? I could go a few ways on that. In principle, if you look at nature, nature always finds an equilibrium in its ecosystem, where everything works together maximally to, grow and adapt. And, but the thing is, when you have an environment that maybe gets too much water, things die. Or when it gets not enough water, things die. Right. So there's like there's a point of maximal efficiency, effectiveness, and everything else in nature. The plants have to do their job. The environment has to do its job. Plants that are screwed up in their DNA code will die off. But like there's a synthesis of environment and life that has to be calibrated effectively for an ecosystem to work. What I found out is that people are the same. And it's true for your inner world. It's true for your outer world. And it's a part that everyone experiences, but no one knows how to do anything about. And so the way that shows up in relationships, it's actually pretty simple. I mean, I think it's the most simple philosophy, and I really like it because it's a really simple way to help people understand the mechanisms behind their psychology in a way that's just super simple. And the way that I say that is owed and owing. Everyone in their life has someone they feel owes them. And everyone generally feels like there's someone in their life who they owe. And what's interesting about that is that those two psychologies, which are embedded in everyone, happens to be the same predator and prey, narcissism, altruism. It's our split personalities. It's both sides of the mind. When we don't have those things in balance, then we exacerbate the owed and owing psychology. And in relationships, that's really funny because what happens is you run this game of, well, you owe me, and so therefore, why should I give anything else to you? And so then what ends up happening is that the more we have a psychology of people owe me, the greater I restrict my capacity to give. And so as an entrepreneur, that's a huge problem because then you are deficient in your energy to be able to create offers or be able to serve people. And it restricts things. And likewise, on the other side, if you feel you owe people, your capacity to receive is diminished to the degree that you feel you owe people. And you'll restrict receiving benefits in your life. You'll restrict money, love, affection, consideration, significance. And what's so interesting about people is that even though they are restricting that, and maybe they don't know that, it's just stuck in some accounting ledger somewhere, they still crave those things, you know? And so an easy way to think about this is if I have a past relationship where I feel that this fucker owes me, I might project onto you that, well, you'll be the next person to pay back what this person owes me. So I might crave love and affection from you, or I might crave money from you, or I might crave, you being this for me. But in doing that, I then set up a series of expectations of who you should be for me. And what's really interesting that I notice the most about people is that if you do those things for me, I'll start rejecting you because actually I want it from this old form that I haven't got it from. And so I'll reject you when you start doing the things that I like. It's kind of interesting. Anyone hear themselves in this relationship dynamic? It's kind of weird, you know? So then we end up in this space, whenever we have these exacerbated owed and owing psychology, we end up in a space where we never end up getting what we want. And then you become bitter, resentful, hateful, whatever. And then you start running these games of, I can never get what I want, so why even try? And then you become apathetic and you just become a doormat, And it's funny because it shows up in business too. I do a series of group calls with business owners every week. And I always start whatever group I'm working with, I start them with this question: what do you want your business to give to you? It's a very simple question, like, what do you want your business to give to you? And everyone says, lifestyle and this and that and all these things, right? And then I'm like, okay, got it. And then I point out that your business is designed to do one thing for you: generate profit. Like, you can do all the other stuff, but the thing is, people don't see that. And so what happens is they then infect their business with their own narcissism. And then what happens is instead of creating an offer that says, I'd like my business to create some money, so I'm going to create an offer that makes money and actually serves people, what ends up happening is I need to make an offer that I think serves people, but actually serves me at the end of it, and hopefully generates some money, but also gives me this lifestyle, and also gives me this, and also gives me this. So therefore your offer gets extremely complicated, and you put all this energy on it, and you put all these expectations on it, and therefore the disappointment level when a customer doesn't buy is through the roof, which slows down your efficiency as a business owner. It makes things complicated, convoluted, complex, and then you're tied to it, which means if you get a client that doesn't buy, or they pull out on you or whatever, you're now personally affected, as opposed to recognizing that's just a transaction between my customer and the business I'm running, right? So there's all this friction that happens. And so I think fair exchange as an idea is incredibly fucking useful, because if you're able to work out these psychologies, it clears up your business transactions, it clears up your client transactions, and it clears up your transactions in your mind so that you can free yourself to actually go and get the things that you want to get in your lives and be capable of receiving it rather than rejecting it because your accounting's all messed up. And what's interesting is that I've been doing this particular model of coaching for the last 10 years, and I've probably seen about 300 probably coaching clients one-on-one since doing this model. I've found 0% of customers that don't have this problem going on. So it's like it affects people, and exposing it and getting just getting detailed on it helps every area of their lives. I mean, it's kind of useless. Like you could create the most amazing funnel. You could create the most amazing business. You create the most amazing family and lifestyle. You can have the McLaren, have the Ferrari, whatever the hell you want to do. But if you don't feel okay with any of it, or you're resisting it, or you don't feel you've done enough for it, or you feel more is owed to you, then there's no space for you to be happy. There's no space for you to be okay with what you've built. And, it's kind of a shitty situation, but getting that corrected is fucking remarkable for everyone I've met. who does the process. Yeah.
But when you explain it like that, it seems pretty simple. We all do that in different areas. How interesting. How interesting. Huh.
It's really embarrassing. Like I'm constantly embarrassed by what I do because it's so simple. Uh, it's like it's just funny. It's funny for me to teach it because it's like this is the simplest idea that you've just dodged your entire life, and I don't like. Did anyone ever go to school and have how to appreciate myself class? Did we have fair exchange class? No. We're just expected to learn shit, go out in the marketplace and try our best, whatever. But it's like the problem with that for me, and this is my life. Like I was like that too. And so I'm here in the marketplace. I have no idea how to value myself in business, relationships, in my own psychology. So I'm always, and like everybody, we're always dealing with these inner critics. We're always dealing with these outer critics. We're always being affected by our emotions in a negative way. And therefore, we're all trying to deal with our negative emotions. And that's the whole industry. It's like, oh, deal with your negative emotions, deal with this negative emotion, whatever. No one's really teaching how to generate positive emotion in a way that's sustainable. And so I don't say that's a fault. I don't think anyone's wrong for that. It's just no one has figured out yet. I feel like I'm putting myself on a huge pedestal, but it's just like no one else has figured this one out. And when I figured this out and gave people this tool, their lives fucking changed and they started making different decisions. The thing that I love the most about this model is that this is something I believe this so hardcore. Everyone talks about coping strategies. It's like, oh, well, that's the childhood coping strategy you implemented then. Maybe it doesn't work as an adult, whatever strategy or story you're implementing to get what you want and fulfill your highest values. To me, it's simply, I don't make anyone wrong. I don't make anyone wrong. It's just that's the strategy that you are using because that is the level of worth that you have. And so therefore you have no choice but to choose that strategy. So, but if I increase your deserve level and increase your self-worth by helping you balance these accountings, these ledgers, these emotional psychology ledgers in your mind, and you increase, suddenly you start making different decisions for yourself naturally. It's why when I hear people talk about this, they're like, oh, I have to set boundaries. I'm like, no, you don't. You have to increase what you feel you deserve, and you will set automatic boundaries as a consequence. Watch your life improve as you do this, So interesting.
The deserving level, that is huge. I remember years ago, I was going through a tough time. My relationship wasn't going really well. My business, I was feeling lost. I was just, I guess, just treading water in different areas, or my perception was that. And someone said to me, I should do list writing. Write a list of all the reasons why you're deserving of whatever it is that you want: money, health, whatever, relationships. And I wrote a list, 300 reasons of why I'm deserving of love or receiving love in all areas. And literally 300 reasons. And it took me a while. And eventually at the end of that, I was like, okay, done. Let's see what happens. And that next week, it was like massive shifts. The partner at the time, my girlfriend and I, we split up just really quickly. I was doing acting, and my acting agent called me out of the blue and said, Zach, you're not aligned to this agency anymore. You're out. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going traveling. I was just like, I just booked a flight, and I think I went to America or something like that at the time. I was like, all right, let's go. And so I made some big decisions and changed a lot of things that were maybe I was feeling quite stuck on. But I take it back to that moment. I was trying all these external strategies until I kind of dove into this list writing thing. And now I'm a little bit more aware, and maybe you can share some light on this, but it's my understanding that as our neurosynapse and our brain grows, it's building a new highway of feeling or emotions and thought processes and awareness. And so every time I would write a reason why I was deserving, it was building a stronger synapse. I don't know. Is that correct? And then my second question is, how can someone speed this process up? Because I think it's so important. It's so important. The biggest lie I think people are brainwashed, or the mental virus that people are stuck in is this belief that they're not deserving or not enough. And so how does someone really turn that around? Is that what you're saying with this fair equal exchange? Is that the process, or is there a way of supercharging our level of deserving? Is there a supplement for this?
build a supplement company, I guess. Um, here's a placebo. It's self-worth. There you go. Well, I've educated myself with a lot of information out there. And the closest thing I can get to in representing like why this is a biological mechanic is, I'm going to sound a little bit like Jordan Peterson, but it's relevant. Human beings share pretty much a 98% nervous system with a lobster. And lobsters work on a hierarchy in the lobster clan. And the lobster who is the most dominant and also has therefore access to the most resources is the one that has the most connected nervous system. So a way to think about this is making a list of why you deserve X, Y, and Z is really you and your consciousness building up reasons, which are resources, as to why you should have a result. Okay. So any answer to a question is therefore a resource. Okay. So you built 300 resources in your mind to be able to pull from to rationalize an outcome. So the conversation that I like to have with people is resources. And as you build your resources internally, externally, and even externally doesn't always equate to the internal, because you can have everything and still not know you have it, right? So there has to be a self-awareness of the resources that you have available at any time. But as you grow your resources, you grow literally the back of your brainstem. It connects your body and your brain together at a higher level. So there literally is a biomechanics to this, which you can study if you like. The one that I think is the most interesting is, I was listening to a podcast from an author and neuroscientist, and they were talking about how your self-worth and your deserve level is more or less attuned to this part of your brain called the rostral cingulate zone. And I want to preface here, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I nerd out on it sometimes. And this part of the brain is known to respond positively and release dopamine and other, hormones. It does it in two ways: receiving external praise and approval, and also internal praise and approval. And this is very important to understand, because most people receive and addict to external approval. And then they release dopamine, and then you have a dopamine rush. And then in addictions theory, I have a good friend of mine who runs 8 addiction centers all over the world. And so him and I could talk about this for days. It's great. But his understanding of addiction on a biochemical level is that addiction is what happens when you have a one-sided dopamine circuitry. Okay, so I'm gonna go through that a little bit. i.e., you have dopamine downloads with no capacity to recycle it. So therefore, you're always downloading dopamine and pissing it out, right? Instead of recycling it. So therefore, your brain always has to create more. So how does your brain create more? Well, it goes and addicts to something to create more so we can move through the system. But the system is supposed to recycle. So most people produce way too much dopamine. That's why we're all dopamine addicts, instead of recycling it. But people don't understand the mechanism of recycling it is self-awareness. And it's not self-awareness as, I'm just going to go meditate and be self-aware. No, self-awareness means you acknowledge the effort that you are putting in to receive whatever approval you're getting. But this is what almost no one understands, because most people, it's like, oh yeah, wow, I got the approval. I'm focused on the approval. And we forget ourselves. The trick here is to receive approval, and also in that same moment, if possible, or reflective a couple of days later, whatever, recognize, what did I have to do for that actually? So that you can earn your side of it and restore the balance in your brain. And what's interesting about this, I'm very good at being an addict. Like, you can give me all the fucking drugs and I will love you to death. Okay, just give it to me. I'll fucking do whatever. I'll go for it. I'm a very good addict. I'm a specialist in addiction for being addicted. Like, I'm very good at it. But the thing is, the more I've done this work of balancing, which I do through the integrated appreciation method, it's my tool that I share. But as I've done that, the more I've done that work, whether it's every day, every week, every month, every year, sometimes, whatever, every single addiction that I had in my life, whether it's to substances or people or porn or whatever the hell, started to go away. It wasn't like an effort. It was just, I just woke up. I'm no longer craving that. That's interesting, and it doesn't happen overnight. You're dealing with an animal body. It's going to take some time to train. But I've noticed that, like, I don't do any drugs right now. I used to do drugs every day, but not anymore. And it's because my capacity to feel properly has been restored. And that's the thing that I love sharing with people. It's like when you're out of fair exchange, I mean, just think about it. If you feel someone owes you, how do you feel? Angry, rageful, pissed off, expectant, hoping to God that this person will somehow pay you back and maybe you'll feel good about it, but you'll probably still be angry, right? So all these stress transmitters happen. And so therefore you're now seeking to feel good about life. Meanwhile, you've got this exchange going on that's not right. And how do you feel when you owe someone? Oh shit, they might not like me. I better get this paid up faster. Pressure, expectation, blah, 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 blah. So these two things, when you start balancing them out, not only does your capacity to receive and also give payback improve, but your emotional capacity in your mind literally restores itself to be a recycling system as opposed to just a dumping ground. And so the second part of your question was like, is there like an easy way to do that? To me, it's one of the reasons why I gave up on trauma work. Because I found that it's kind of shitty, but I'll say it in a way that is hopefully people will get past this. So, hate me if you have to. But the idea being that if I train my dog to eat an electric fence that's electrified in order to get a treat, and I do that 1,000 times, my dog now thinks that the way to get a treat is to go through pain. Okay. I'm just going to set that frame, meaning how many people are out there teaching trauma breakthroughs where you go and clear your trauma and then you feel release or you feel good after releasing the trauma or whatever. You feel positive afterwards, some kind of thing afterwards. What you're doing is you're training your animal body to bite the electric fence. And so what happens sometimes with some people, not everyone, but some people, and I'm not saying it's bad, go do your trauma work, man. Like, don't, whatever. You do you. But like my experience was that the problem with that sometimes can be a person only thinks the way to feel good is to overcome pain. Sometimes the only way to get gratitude or to free myself from a burden is to deal with some traumatic experience, whatever. And I realized in my life that I wasn't traumatized by the loss of my ex. I was traumatized because I was left with myself and I had no capacity to honor or appreciate what I had given to her. I was appreciating what she gave to me. I felt I owed her. And when I looked at what I gave to her finally and honored myself for whatever I gave to her, even if it wasn't enough, just honoring myself helped me through that. And so to me, what I recommend everyone do is write down the 10 most incredible moments in your life. Like just write them down. Go and write down in a list the 10 most amazing moments in my life. Ask yourself why they're so amazing to you. And then ask yourself, what did you have to be, do, and have, or have gone through, positive or negative, in order to make it possible for you to experience that terrific moment and own your side of it? Because when you own your side of it, it's no longer, oh, that was so terrific and that was a surprise. And oh my God, I wish I could have those moments again because it's gone. It's, oh, I actually had to do something for it. Oh yeah, and look at that. I had to do that and be that. Those are resources. And I build my resources up to match a terrific as opposed to trying to overcome a trauma. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I just have a different approach. And what I've noticed is that my approach, for what it's worth, again, I'm extremely skeptical of everything, including myself. But I've observed in my own life and in the lives of my clients that as you earn a terrific, you create more terrifics because your emotional resonance is up to the level that you've already had, which means now it's no longer, oh, how do I get that terrific again? It's like, no, I did a lot for it and I can do it again and I can do it better. And the thing is, that's really important for people to recognize because in clinical psychology, for what I know about it, the way that a clinician in general, like a classically trained one, would help a client overcome trauma is through helping them go through experiences to build up their brain's recognition that the likelihood that they will ever be in a situation to be traumatized like that again is zero. And the second the brain recognizes that if it was ever in that situation again, it would know what to do and it would defend itself and it would not be victimized. The second it does that, it deletes the trauma. It no longer has to replay it because it replays it as a reminder of disempowerment. And I know that sounds really fucking fucked up, okay? And I'm not victim blaming anybody, so, please don't put that on me. But for what it's worth, that's how the brain works. So then the question is, well, what if what you did was instead of this stuff, you went and earned a terrific, meaning I'm taking trauma work and I'm inverting it. I'm saying, what did you have to be, do, and have in order to create that? which means now it's like, oh, that's terrific. I no longer need to hold on to that anymore, which means I'm no longer grieving the terrifics of my past. They're present with me because I created it. Therefore, I look forward to creating a new terrific. And what's interesting about that is that the emotional capacity of the person changes to the level of the terrific. And the thing about that is when you raise your emotional capacity in your emotional spectrum to a terrific sustainably, i.e. fair exchange, I received this terrific, I gave this terrific in exchange. Your emotional capacity rises and it stays there for whatever you did the work on. Meaning your capacity to be traumatized by resultant emotions of shitty experiences goes down to the level you've appreciated the opposite. And so my experience with my clients is I've had clients who are brutally traumatized. Like it's fucking brutal, and I honor that. It's like, it's fucking brutal if you go through some crazy shit. But those same clients, I can help them earn a terrific. And suddenly they're like, wow, I don't feel traumatized anymore. That's so crazy. Like I didn't do any work on that. I still understand what happened. But like, I'm not, what the hell just happened, Stephen? And I'm like, well, this is the difference. When you increase your emotional capacity by earning a terrific, your ability to be vulnerable to a predominance of negative emotion goes down. And that's the thing that most people don't understand. Most people are like, oh, I've got negative emotions. I got to work on the negative emotions. Look, negative emotions are not a problem. Negative emotions are there because you have a deficiency in positive emotion. And most people take this for granted. They're just like, oh, if I just overcome my negative pain, I'll get positive emotions. No, you can't do that. The reason is because if I sit down at the piano and I've never played piano before, and I expect myself, because I want to play an Elton John song, if I've never sat at the piano before, am I going to be able to play an Elton John song? Probably not, right? And I might be disappointed. Okay, I'm disappointed. Hey, therapist, please, I'm disappointed. I can't play like Elton John. Please help me. Okay, let's spend 6 months and $18,000 dealing with your disappointment of not being able to play Elton John. Cool. Okay, yeah, thanks very much. It took a while, but now I no longer feel disappointed. This is fucking great. Wow, thank you so much. Cool, I'm going to go try again. Did you spend 6 months playing piano and practicing? No. So what happens? You go down at the piano again, and can you play Elton John? No. So my point of using that metaphor is just because you've gotten really good at overcoming painful experiences and painful emotions doesn't mean you have any skill at feeling any better. And so therefore, I can't take it for granted, and no one else should. We're just not practiced in this. And no one's wrong for that. We were just never taught.
Whoa. I like what you're putting down, man. I like what you're putting down. This is cool. This is cool. It's I could listen to you all day in diving into these, I guess would seem complex ideas or concepts and breaking them down into simple bite-sized chunks for me to understand. And but Stephen, I still feel these emotions on a daily basis. I still feel that there's this shame or guilt or, you know, um, disappointment and the weight of the world and these expectations. And, I'm in a partnership and I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with my career. I'm fat. I look at myself in the mirror and I think I'm disgusting. What do you say to that person? How do they turn this around?
I want to respond to that by sharing a story of a client. It's the best way to do it. I had a client. He was a Australian gentleman, and he was 28 when I met him. That was 6 years ago, I think. He was working with a client of mine. She recommended that he spend some time with me, so he booked a call, and I met the guy. We then booked a session about 2 weeks later, and he came in and he's like, okay, I love these clients because they come in with their own diagnostics. It's funny. I love it. So he came in and he was like, so I just want to share that I think I know what we're dealing with. I said, okay, please share. Please tell me what you got. And he's like, so I just did ayahuasca 4 weeks ago, and I've got a lot of trauma around my mother. Okay, fine. Okay, cool. Whatever. Like, whatever. Look, I don't want to make anyone's story wrong. Like, I don't think anyone's wrong. People they're dealing with what they have, But I listened to him and I'm like, okay, so what's the problem that we're dealing with today? He's like, well, for as long as I can remember, I've had this constant anxiety. And literally on the Zoom call, I can see him shaking. Like he's got anxiety all the time. The friend who referred him said that's what he should come see me about because he's always shaking with anxiety. It's just brutal. He's got a cold heart, feels like electricity is going on through his chest the whole time. Like it's pretty brutal, And I'm like, shit, this guy's 28. Like by 50, he's going to have Parkinson's. This is crazy. We should do something, And so I questioned him. And I said, okay, well, take me back to the stuff with your mom, And he told me a whole story, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but the theme of it was my mom never supported and loved me or taught me anything. She was hypercritical, never praised me, like all this stuff. The huge, fucking horrible story. Like this kind of story you never want to live. It's pretty, it's brutal. And I felt sorry for him. It's like, dude, this story sucks, man. Like brutal, like goddamn. And so I said, well, how long have you been dealing with this? He's like, pretty much my whole life. I said, how long have you been doing therapy or personal development on this? He's like, pretty much since I was 14, I've been trying to figure this out, doing personal development, some kind of training therapy, whatever. But here he is on my phone call being like anxious as ever, trying another way to fix it. Ayahuasca, whatever, go do your thing. So I take the context and I said, okay, got it. So thank you for sharing. I'd like to go in a different direction if you don't mind. He's like, okay, yeah, well, whatever you think, man. Like, you're the coach. I'm like, okay. I said, do you have a moment in your life where someone, maybe your mom or someone else, was really there for you? Like really, like present with you, loving you, supporting you, praising you, acknowledging you, and teaching you things? Like, do you have any moment like that? And he goes around in his mind and he realizes he has this moment. He's 6 years old, and it was the first time he went outside the house in the backyard. His father had installed a basketball net, and his father was an athlete, and his father, he wanted him to learn to play basketball. So he's like teaching him how to dribble and teaching him how to shoot and like, good job. Yeah, that's awesome. Good job. Like full on, like the kind of father you want, right? We go to this moment. He's like, yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I heard the sadness in his voice. I'm like, why are you so sad about it? He says, because my dad died when I was 14. I said, dude, this is fucking brutal. I want to set this up in the idea of fair exchange. He's missing the positive contributions, and it died on him. So he no longer has access to it. So the thing that he's left with is the opposite. So now he's just recurring trauma, criticism, whatever. I said, okay, let me work you through this one. I said, go to that moment. He says, okay. I said, so your dad is loving you, praising you, supporting you, teaching you, and it's fucking great, right? Yeah, it was fine. I would do anything to have that again. I want to be that kind of man for my child. I'm like, dude, that's inspiring, dude. Like, this is awesome. Let me ask you a question. What did you have to do, and have in that moment to be able to make it possible for your dad to do that for you? You know what he says? I don't know. Nothing. I've been doing this for 10 years. Everybody says the same thing. It's amazing. They don't know. Personal share. How fucking sad is that? Like, we all experience these fucking terrific moments in our lives, but then we look at ourselves and we don't see it. What is up with that? This is everybody. So I'm there with them and I'm like, hang on, man. Did you have to be alive? He's like, well, yeah. I said, no, not just, well, yeah, yes or no. He's like, yes. Okay. Just lock that in for a second. What else? Did you have to be his son? I did have to be his son. Did you have to choose him as a father? Because you could have rejected him at any point. He's like, no, okay, I see where you're going. I said, did you have to love him? He's like, I did have to love him. What else? I had to want to play basketball. Did you have to want him to teach you? You could have got some other teacher or some friend. I wanted him to teach me because he was an athlete. I knew he'd teach me right. I said, okay, what else? What else? What about your time? What about your body? Do you have to have a physical body that was capable? He's like, yeah, I did. Do you have to have a brain to be able to comprehend the dribbling and everything else? He's like, yeah, okay. What about eyes? Did you have to have eyes to see? Right? I went all around the wheel with this guy, to help him to find out, like, I went all the way around. You have to breathe, have to know how to breathe oxygen. And like, look at all the things that he just never acknowledged about himself, right? We go around a huge wheel and he starts to feel different, and I'm watching him on the Zoom call as he's doing this self-acknowledgement, and his shaking is starting to go down to nothing. And then I said, did you have to accept him as a father? You had to be his son, right? He's like, yeah, I did. I did have to love him too. He's like, I did have to love my dad. I said, do you still love your dad? He's like, I fucking still love my dad. I said, was he getting love from you too? Oh my God, that was a huge piece. Because what happens is he's receiving love from his father. He didn't know his father received love from him. So he's always feeling, I owe my father for this terrific moment. Always feeling guilty, always feeling not enough. So he's got this whole energy around him, which is just, I can't feel good. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. So I'm just a victim of these negative emotions, right? I just got him to confront that. I said, did your dad why did your dad do it again for the amount of time that he was alive with you? How long did this happen? He's like, he taught me till he died. Why would he do that? Well, because he loved me. I said, well, didn't he receive love from you as well? Would your dad have done that if you hated him? He says, he fucking breaks, like a 28-year-old man breaks down on me. Like a beautiful fucking moment, cries with me on a Zoom call for 30 minutes. He literally has an ayahuasca experience on the Zoom call with me in his own mind. He's like tripping out on his own chemicals. At the end of it, I said, I noticed that about 40 minutes ago, you stopped shaking. Did you notice? And he looks at his hands. He's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That is cool. I said, let me stress test you on this. Go to a moment where your mom is hating on you and criticizing you and saying that you're a bad kid. He goes to that moment that he always goes to, that the ayahuasca brought up for him too. I said, how do you feel about that right now? He's like, I don't feel anything. Whoa. I said, are you sure? He's like, that's amazing. What do you think about that? He's like, I think my mom was just going through her own shit. I was like, do you feel nothing towards that? He's like, that's weird, man. I'm like, that is kind of weird. But it's cool, you know? That man went from every day, 24 hours, shaking level anxiety to not shaking. I still talk to him, and every year I'll send him a message. I can show them to you on Facebook, and I'll be like, hey, how's that anxiety going for you? And he'll message me back every year. Still gone, bro.
Seems like this stuff works. Great. Wow. So there's a bit of a theme here, or a thread. You mentioned it a few times here. It's this inability to see our own value or deserving. And it's the perception of I didn't receive, or I gave too much, or something like this that changes and impacts our body. How does it actually, I'm curious by that, it's like they say we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so what actually happens, like neurologically or chemically, biochemically? Because I know that certain things I can focus on, like if I'm asking certain questions and focusing on the negative, I can go down into some dark places and my body changes. Or if I go and ask myself other questions and focus on something else, my body can feel other more heightened, empowering emotions, all from my mind. Can you help us understand that on more of a biochemical or brain connection? And how does that come down to then our feelings? And how did that specifically shift his nervous system so he didn't shake anymore? I guess it's all related, hey?
The way that I present that is that human beings have a spectrum of emotions. And the way that I phrase that, for lack of better terms, is you've got love on one side, you've got hate on the other side. There's certain experiences in life where hating is a good thing. You know, it's like if you're going to war with somebody or they're trying to burn down your house, like you might want to activate that, you know, to defend your kid. Or, you know, people love to argue. Like I'm in this stoicism group on Facebook. They love to fucking argue me. They're like, you can still defend and not hate. It's like, fuck off. Like just fucking, you know, own your shit, man. But I believe, and the way I see it is that there's a spectrum of emotional capacity. And for, again, lack of better terms, you've got love on one side, hate on the other side. Fine. My perception is that most people, because we don't have access to what we did to deserve a terrific, because all our senses are outward focused. We see out, we hear out, we touch out, we smell and taste out. So we're pretty much, you know, there's other senses, there's like proprioception and stuff like that. But in general, like our core main senses are outward focused. So therefore, we don't have an innate capacity to see ourselves. It's a skill. We have to develop that. I've spent some time with Eric Edmeades, and I've studied some anthropology. And I think that's really valuable to do, because if you're 2 years old and you're in a tribe in ancient times, let's say, you are carrying a cup of water 2 miles a day. That's just how it is. Like you're part of the tribe, you know? You're able to walk around and do stuff. Cool. You're part of the tribe. So from a very young age, they see the consequences of doing good and doing bad. And they are represented by the tribe. It's like, yeah, good job. You're part of the team. 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 So there's a bigger recognition of I'm part of a team and I'm valuable when you get to work at a very young age, or at least are given responsibility at a young age. What do? Diapers and comic shows and then cartoons and stuff. So it's different. And I noticed this in my son, like when we were raising my son, he wanted to help make dinner. He wanted to help do things, but he can't because he's locked into a fucking high chair with diapers on. We're doing everything for him. The problem with that is that you can only do things for someone for so long until they turn on you. And they're not turning on you because they're an evil person. They're turning on you because the burden of receiving your gifts from you overwhelms them because they feel guilty. Like, what am I doing for this? How can I help you? I can't help you. I can't help you. I can't help you. The equation is getting too big. I can't handle it anymore. And so eventually the psychology breaks and makes the person who's doing the giving into an enemy. And then you have terrible twos. Why'd that happen? This is the burden of receiving. We make people into enemies. That's why I believe, is my own philosophy on this, anyone who's at war are basically people that fucking are bad at fair exchange, man. You know, and they're denying what the other side has to give to them and has already given to them. You know, and the only way to stop that is to fucking stop and be like, look, what have you given me, and what can you give me also, and how can we exchange better? So I look at both sides of a war and I'm just like, you're all stupid. You know, I know that's going to trigger some people, but look, it's my position. You're both stupid, you know, for not figuring this out already. How long have you been at this for? What the fuck? Like, Jesus, what, you think they have nothing to offer you? Go, you fucking look at yourself, man. Go in a mirror. But like most people never have access to that. Like, I've never had a client who says clearly, oh, I had to do this and this and this and this. I've never had that for a terrific. All I hear is people that have experienced trauma and don't deserve it, or think they don't deserve it, whatever. And so they're always trying to rationalize, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? What? No one ever asks that for the terrifics. Why did this happen to me? It's just great, you know? But no one ever asks the same questions, you know? And so we never get access to that side of the emotional spectrum. So what I find is that most people don't have access to the full spectrum. They just get up to the middle ground and they stop. And so then as a consequence of that, they just have middle emotions, which is more apathetic and kind of shitty and weird, and then negative emotions. So it's like I'm just bottom feeding the whole fucking time. And that's actually what the brain does. If you think about it, if you don't feel that you deserved a terrific moment in your life, then you'll block it out, because it's easier to block it out than feel the burden. What did I do for it? Oh, I owe that person. I don't want to feel like I owe that person. So I'll block it out. And maybe I'll make that same person who was once terrific for me into a terrible. And I'll just tell a story that makes me feel better. Holy fuck, people are so twisted this way. It's crazy. I'm this way too. I'm not separate from this. The consequence of that, however, is that then our mind is always seeking energy. It's always seeking chemistry. It's always seeking another way to fuel itself. And what ends up happening is, it's not a fault of the person. I don't think this is on purpose, but what ends up happening is the brain sometimes seeks chemistry in shitty places. The way that I want to explore that is a metaphor that I use. It has to do with gas-powered vehicles. So if you own an electric car, you might not understand this, but there was once a time where human beings had to put gasoline in their vehicles for them to work, okay? So let's just imagine for a second that you are on a road trip. You're 20 miles from the next gas station and your car runs out of gas, okay? Now, before your car starts running out of gas, what does it do? It starts to make funny noises, starts to lose power, starts to put a little bit, and you're driving this car and you're like, oh, shit, what's happening? Oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? Anxiety, freak out, fear, anxiety, holy shit, oh my God, car runs out of gas. If you don't know any better, what are you going to think? My fucking car is broken. Bad car. Bad car. Let me punish you for, right? Then what happens? Well, your car is pulling gas from the bottom of the tank where all the sediment is. So now you got sediments in your spark plugs and everything else, and your engine's kind of fucked. And so then you might get out of the car and be like, oh, what did I do to deserve this? Oh my God, the universe, it must be Mercury retrograde or whatever the fuck. It's like, no, you didn't have enough gas, man. Like, get real. But anyway, is the car broken? No. What does the car need? More gas. Okay. So then think about it this way. Is your mind broken? Or does it just need more gas? Might just need more gas. And it might need an alternative way to get that gas instead of regurgitating the same terrible stories in order to get its dopamine. Because in that sense, it's always on low fuel. But the brain is going to get your dopamine whether you like it or not to power itself. So if we're always getting it from a shitty spot, and that's just where you're getting it from, and you have no alternative, I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm just saying no one cared enough to show you a different way to create chemistry. And if you don't learn to create your own chemistry, you're always going to be a victim to your circumstance. You're never going to be happy.
Makes a lot of sense. The power of the mind is fascinating.
Okay, you're thinking
blown away by this incredible piece of machinery that we have on our shoulders, and we just don't know how to utilize it to the best of its ability. Most of us, anyway. And gosh, it's so interesting. The more that I search outside, the answers end up just becoming, no, I got to search in and have that introspection, reflection, awareness, deep dive, questioning, think outside the box, change the fuel to your brain and change your reality, kind of what you're saying. Super interesting. I've got a few more questions before we
It's
wrap this
funny.
up.
There's a really common
If you could go back in time
there's a really common
and go to the moment before you had that breakup with your partner, before that 7-year cycle started of that pain and whatnot, what would you do differently, knowing what you know today? I think I'm lagging.
for
Am I
a
lagging?
technical reason, I'd say nothing.
Did you hear that?
On a technical reason, I would say nothing because, the world works out, life works out, we figure it out. So I technically say nothing, but I've thought about that question a lot. And what I'm certain of is that if I had owned my side of that relationship, maybe before that moment or in that moment, um, I would have saved myself 7 years of grief easily, like easily. If I had figured this out before that moment, I definitely would have treated that relationship differently, and I definitely would have put that lady in her place. And again, that's going to sound very gross and masculine or whatever, but like whether you're a man or a woman, you can get treated by your partner like dog shit. And I don't have any animosity towards this person, and in general, they didn't treat me like dog shit. But there's certain things that we both did where we treated each other like dog shit. And that probably wouldn't have happened. I would have acted a lot differently, and I wouldn't have allowed myself to be so influenced by, always saying yes, and yes, maybe to the wrong things, no to the wrong things. I just would have shown up differently as a man. I didn't know how to be a man. And I think being a man also is like, it's being a man or a woman. It's the same thing. Like you have to accumulate and understand and have under management the resources that you have. I didn't even realize I was so dissociated in my mind and detached from my resources that I didn't even realize that the only way she was able to fly in to spend time with me is because I had an apartment and I had to work to keep that apartment. And I had to choose to get that apartment. And I had to choose to buy a bed, and I had to choose to buy those other things, right? So I was so dissociated. I had no idea how to equate and value my side of that transaction. The problem that I had in that place in my life was that because I couldn't value what I had, and I had no idea what resources I had to offer this person because I didn't know what I was offering, that makes it very difficult to authentically appreciate the person who you're relating with. So it's like she's wanting me to love her, but it's like, how can I? I barely even love myself. How is this going to and so I'm always worried. I was just constantly worried, it's just it's horrible. And therefore, because I didn't know what I had on the table on my side of the ledger, I just get run over all the time. She's like, oh, you should do this. You should do this. Be like me, be like me, be like me. Right. And so it becomes very easy to dissociate from yourself and be like other people and more or less be trained to be them. The big problem with that is that the second your partner succeeds in making you just like them, they no longer want you. And that was the problem that I experienced was, I adopted what they wanted, and therefore I lost myself. And how can she love me when I'm being her? She wanted me to be me, but I couldn't do that. So that relationship never worked. It was never designed to work. I think it was designed to get me to have that experience that I had and go through all that, to be able to figure it out and make it simpler than what I had learned, because where I learned all this stuff was super fucking complicated. It's like quantum physics shit, solar shit, universal shit, black hole theory, all this stuff, whatever. Okay, but like, I'm a musician. I like to play my guitar every day and read books and edit videos. Like, that's my life. So like, do I need to know quantum solar theory? No, not really, right? So like, I don't seek in my teachings or my school to like indoctrinate anybody into science that they wouldn't normally figure out on their own. That's not my purpose. I'm not interested in that. So it kind of just helped me understand, like, make it simple. When you honor and acknowledge yourself for your side of the equation, finally, it might sound selfish. It might sound full of yourself. Who else do you want to be full of? That's the question you want to ask. And if you can't be full of yourself, everyone else doesn't get the benefit of you. And that's what they all want. So actually, the thing that we should all do is learn how to value and appreciate ourselves on our side of the ledgers, not for the traumas. I mean, you can do that if you want, but for the terrifics especially, because I don't think anyone really wants to hang around a person just because your nobility is because you overcame some pain. Everyone's got pain. Nobody wants to play trauma Olympics. Does that make sense? So I'd rather go on the other side, because if I can see the terrifics in myself, then I'll see them in you too. And I think that's how we grow. But I think what happened in culture is that we've all been polluted with these ideologies that the only way to grow is to overcome challenge. And I don't think that's correct. I think that's wrong. I think that's a poison that we've all been infected with, because it just creates the same fucking challenge again and again, so we can overcome it and feel good about ourselves. You know, the thing is, like, there's this quote that's often used in the personal development space. And it sounds like this. Everyone says it. The real test of your character isn't when things are going well. It's when the shit hits the fan. That's when the true colors come out and you really find out who you are, right? Okay, fine. Here's the problem. Can I really expect you to be yourself when a fiery tornado with sharks just destroyed your house and destroyed all your possessions? Like, is it right of me? Is it right of me to actually expect you to be normal, Zach? No. I would expect you should be sad and angry and on the ground crying and being like, fuck, oh my God, my life is destroyed. Right. Because that would actually make me a caring person. So I think what's happened here in my philosophy about it and the way I interpret it, and I could be wrong, I'm willing to be wrong, but I think I'm right, is that we've all bought into that idea that it's the real test of our characters when things are going hard, you know? And we've all adopted that idea because it all sounds great. It's like, yeah, I can be a strong warrior man in the face of chaos, whatever. Okay, but can you be a strong warrior man in the face of a terrific? So then the question is, if we were so good at it, then why do we take it all for granted when it happens? I don't think anyone's good at it. And I think because of that, we've all bought into this idea that we should be some warrior fucking-esque person in the face of chaos. Because what? It's really easy when things are going well. I don't think it's easy when things are going well. I think it's fucking harder, because I haven't found a single person who's good at appreciating themselves for anything good in their life. So I think that's the big problem that I want to fix.
To think about here, this is fantastic. I love this conversation. This is awesome. I've got 2 more questions for you. If you were to challenge the audience today, a challenge for them today, a challenge this week, a challenge this month, this year, this decade, what would be the challenge you'd love to impart?
I have pretty much in my life, I've been doing personal development for 20 plus years now, pretty much. And I want to say that my opinion is that personal development is a decision. It's a decision. It's a decision to create an attitude. And my opinion is that attitude is one of appreciation over depreciation. And all of Hermetic philosophy says that everything is balanced, slightly slanted towards the positive. Because if it wasn't that way, nature wouldn't grow. It would shrink back into a seed. So there is a positive slant in the universe, strangely enough. That's why there's abundant matter. Where's all the dark matter? You know, where is it? We don't need as much dark matter, negative, to equate all the positives. That's the idea. That's the point. The point of that is a metaphor, if we're going to go down that road. So the challenge I would put to anyone who ever heard me speak ever, it would be make a decision to look more at what your life has given you and what you've given to your life in fair exchange, more than your probably habitual addiction to perceiving what life has taken you and what it owes you, because that psychology will keep you a victim forever, and you will try and poison society to fit your game. So I would challenge anyone listening to this, make a better fucking decision with your life.
It's awesome. Said. That's a great challenge. That is a deep, profound challenge. Everyone at home, please do that. Do that now. Last question. How can people get in touch with you, and who do you serve? Like, who is, you mentioned entrepreneurs, that who out there, if they're listening to this, should be like, gosh, I definitely need to come see you for some work.
Well, my company that I run with my business partner, Julia, is called Inner Capital. You can visit it literally by putting inner.capital in a web browser, and it'll take you to our website. It's not .com, it's .capital. So, keep that in mind. And, but you can also search us up on the internet, Inner Capital. You can also search my name, Stephan Gardner. You'll find me. hit me up on Facebook, send me a DM, Instagram, same thing. So that's how to get a hold of us. And who we serve, I've thought about this a lot, and anyone who wants to improve the quality of their life through improving the quality of their emotions by having a deep confrontation with themselves would be a good candidate for our work. They have to want it. Anyone that just wants to run their play trauma Olympics with me, I'd rather not play. Because if we're going to do that, you don't know what I've been through, so I might win. And that's why I don't do that, because I don't want to play that game. I don't know what you've been through. You don't know what I've been through. So it's not right of us to play the game against each other. But we serve, in general, entrepreneurs that want to make more money, that want to increase the quality of their relationships so that they don't lose it, or if they have lost it, how to get over it, and still maintain their equity so they can move on, and create the privilege of someone else having them in a new relationship, and also them someone else. And anyone, especially entrepreneurs and creative artists who are dealing with mindset challenges, whether it's an addiction or whether it's a overwhelming self-critic, or whether it's just a inability to feel happy or feel good in your life, and you want to conquer these things because you've just equated that those things are bringing you down and keeping you from growing. That's who we serve. We create a platform, and we do a community hub every week where people can come and join and learn a different way of approaching their psychology, and learn a different pathway of personal development that I'm standing on. I've proven it. And when you do it, you'll prove it to yourself too. And that's what matters to me. It's like giving people an opportunity to really experience what it means to honor yourself finally, maybe for the first time in your life, and keep that going, so that as you go and you grow, you're less vulnerable to other people's attacks about what they might want from you and what you might be vulnerable to giving. The end result of it is basically, what you want to give and what you want to receive. And you just set those parameters, because that's what makes you work. And as you have that correct and it works for you, you can then say yes to the right things and no to the right things. And that's just a way better place for most people, because that affects your relationships. It affects you and your emotions. It affects your business. And repairing that and getting that right, and the opportunity just to let go of the owed and owing, it's a fucking miracle for your psychology and your emotions. And so that's what's inside of Inner Capital, if you're interested.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Everyone at home, if you're listening, reach out. Somewhere around this video will be Stephan's links, and book in. He was speaking to my soul then as well. I'm like, oh yes, I resonate with that. That's definitely part of what's going on for me. So if you're out there, if you resonate with this message, reach out and get in touch.